The topic of our talk today is the most longevity promoting diet is also most effective for weight reduction. Let's start off with this. What is a nutritarian diet?
Well, a nutritarian diet inherently is what would be the right dietary portfolio to maximally slow aging, prevent cancer, dementia, heart disease, strokes, and enable a human to live past 100 years old in excellent health. So, are there foods that are best adapted to the human species that arms the immune system to such a strong degree to fight cancer and gives and retards immunosenescence, the degradation of the immune system as we age, increasing risk of infection like pneumonia, and maintains brain capacity and brain function in later life? And that's really what the nutritarian diet is. It's a diet comprised of primarily colorful plants and including these foods called GBOMBS, the acronym GBOMBS, GBOMBS, which are greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, sesame seeds. This full portfolio of foods that scientific studies have documented their powerful effect to maximize human immune function and protect against cancer. What I'm saying right now is I just named 6 food categories of foods that have the most scientific evidence to enable the body to protect itself against cancer if you eat those foods regularly. So if you put those foods all together in one dietary portfolio, you're eating a salad every day and you're eating nuts and seeds every day and fruit, including berries, and you're putting various types of mushrooms on your food. So we structure the diet to maximize the phytonutrient density of every cell in your body. And that requires maintaining an optimal body weight as well, not having too much fat on your body. Because as we gain 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds of fat, it dilutes the nutritional density of our tissue, causing aging of tissues. And fat cells, of course, spew out pro-inflammatory compounds that age us, excite heightened production of estrogen, increasing risk of breast and prostate cancer from having extra body fat. And of course, making us insulin resistant, which means that our fat cells block the uptake of insulin from insulin receptors on muscle tissue. And then the beta cells in the pancreas have to secrete more insulin to compensate for the insulin receptor not working that well. And the high circulating insulin also accelerates aging and can promote cancer. And the diet is largely plant-based as well, because as animal protein goes up in the diet, in a direct dose-dependent relationship to increasing animal protein in the diet, we see shortened lifespans and increased risk of both cardiovascular death and cancer deaths. And we can go into the many reasons why that's so. For example, as animal protein goes up, so does a hormone called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, that goes up too high with excess calories, particularly excess animal protein, drives it, and that promotes cellular replication and allows cancer cells to replicate. And of course, the animal products also create certain different type of bacteria in the gut, which produce a pro-inflammatory compound called TMAO, increasing cardiovascular death. But we can go into more reasons. But the bottom line is this nutritarian diet is the diet defined. You don't say, some people say it's not necessarily a vegan diet, but it could be vegan or it could have a very small amount of animal product. But its definition is not whether it's the absence or inclusion of animal products. The definition is all these healthy foods we're including the regular consumption of raw green vegetables in a salad every day, with dressings on the salads that are made from nuts and seeds or avocados, which prolong human lifespan and further prevent cardiovascular death. And there's one more element to consider here that makes it so different from an American diet or a Mediterranean diet, is that the standard American diet gets almost all its fat in the diet from animal fats and oils. And a nutritarian recognizes that both animal fats and processed oils are lifespan inhibiting, compared to getting your fats from nuts, seeds, and avocado. So we use nuts and seeds and avocado in dressings and sauces because they're much more satiating and they don't drive food addiction and overeating behavior. So this nutritarian diet that I've been, that I've designed and promoted and worked with, hundreds of thousands of people. I've been blessed enough to have 5 television shows on PBS and sold millions of books, many millions of books and materials. So I've had a lot of people following the program, and also people have come to see me as patients or as guests in my retreats. So we've had many people who, like, for example, a person coming to my retreat here in California, maybe 75 to 80% of those with diabetes are not diabetic anymore after the first 6 weeks. No more diabetic medications, no more blood glucoses that are elevated. And the same thing with people with high blood pressure. After 10, 15, 20 years of having high blood pressure, within 6 weeks, they don't have high blood pressure anymore, don't need medications anymore, blood pressure is running fine, their chest pains are gone if they were having them. So in other words, it's kind of astonishingly remarkable how fast the miraculous self-healing capacity of the body can enable people to improve and reverse their diseases. And even people that are more significantly overweight still feel better, get rid of their diabetes, get rid of their inflammation, and their problems start to get better because they're losing weight and building back their health even before they've lost all the body weight. Like if they're 50 pounds overweight, we don't see the results happen after they've lost all the 50 pounds. The fact that they're moving in the right direction and getting the body flooded with nutrients, we see the inflammatory effects goes down, the cholesterol goes down, their blood pressure goes down, the diabetes goes away. Just like a person who's having lap band or gastric bypass surgery, their diabetes goes away in the first month because they're taking in so much less calories and losing weight at a good rate, even though they're not lost, and even though they haven't reached their ideal weight yet, you still see these things improving. It's the same thing we see with this. So I'm saying that with a nutritarian, they're either a person eating so healthfully who's at their ideal weight, or they're a person eating very healthfully and they're moving in the direction towards their ideal weight. Because if they were not losing weight, they really wouldn't be on a nutritarian diet or following all the concepts here.
Right. This isn't a new concept. You've had the nutritarian concept for quite a while, many years, haven't you? And
more than 30 years.
More than 30 years, and you've seen a lot.
I didn't use the term nutritarian back then. I didn't start using the term nutritarian until around 2010.
Oh, okay.
So about 15 years ago, maybe I started using that word. My first book was called Fasting and Eating for Health, written in 1996. Eat to Live, which was my most famous book, that was had a revised vision in 2011. Which, that book, I started using nutritarian diet in the 2011 version of Eat to Live. But the same dietary model and portfolio was still advocated in 2003 when the first Eat to Live came out, more than 20 years ago.
Eat to Live, I think, is the first book that I ever read. I have this one. I forgot I had this one here.
Oh, cool. Well, that's the book I do recommend now, because that's the most recent book with the most updated references. So thank you for having that and showing that, the Eat for Life book, because I'd rather people probably read the more modern version than the older version. You know what I mean?
I looked at the menus, and there's a lot of food allowed during the day. It's not like you're going to be hungry, is it?
You can eat pretty large amounts of food because you don't have to eat thimble-sized portions of food. You're eating so much healthy food. It's lower in calories. You're satiated more. People get satisfied with the right amount of food. And I know what people are thinking when they're listening to me talk so far. They're thinking, yeah, that sounds super healthfully, but I don't want to give up all the foods I love just to be that healthy. And they think that this is not going to give them as much pleasure in life as eating all the, as the hamburgers and French fries and whatever it is, they've cheesecake and ice cream they want to eat. And I'm saying they're absolutely wrong. Your taste buds actually get stronger as your health gets better. And the recipes we've designed over the last 30 years enable this food to taste just as good tasting as unhealthy food can taste. And you actually enjoy eating this way more, not less. So the taste we make the food taste great with great recipes. Your taste buds improve. You're no longer at conflict with the guilt and feeling sick after you eat meals. And you're enjoying food more, not less. And then your life becomes more pleasurable. You're not living in fear. So the person with these severe food addictions, they come up with rationalizations and excuses why they can't eat this healthfully, as opposed to but the people that really do it and succeed with it say, wow, I love living this way. I love eating this way. And the results are just incredible. So it's not really what people think, because they're thinking, I'd rather be dead if I had to eat like that. Who wants to live on carrot sticks the rest of my life and give up all my, my restaurants and my social life and everything else? But in reality, you gain so much more.
Yeah, I saw one list where you had it like, if you love pizza, this is what you should eat. You know, and you know what I think, after you eat this way, the foods that you were used to eating before are a little bit obnoxious. You don't want to eat those anymore. It's a
That's
lot
exactly
easier.
what happens.
Yeah.
You don't like them as much. They taste they're too highly flavored. You prefer to have. I prefer my ice cream, made with macadamia nuts and frozen banana and real vanilla bean powder, to a ice cream made that's so overly sweetened where I can taste the bleach in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you kind of like start to prefer the healthier versions. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
mango coconut flakes, the frozen mango mixed with coconut flakes and a squeeze of lemon makes a great mango sorbet. And the Thai curry sauce on the wok vegetables, is with the tomato sauce melted on the tofu jerky with we put the Thai curry sauce in with the tomato sauce and tomato paste, and you dehydrate that. In other words, there's so many great things we have that we love that are so delicious. And who doesn't love, fresh fruit,
Yeah.
berries and apricots and things like that. But in any case, yes, so a nutritarian diet is focused on the micronutrient density and the comprehensive exposure to the micronutrients, so that with micronutrient adequacy or with micronutrient excellence, it naturally suppresses the desire to overconsume calories. We're getting so much of these phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients to support our health that we don't have to overeat to try to mitigate our fatigue. People are like overeating or eating all the time because their body is so toxic. They're fatigued all the time from all the work the body has to do, deal with all the toxins and all the flooding of the bloodstream with waste products. And they got to keep their body in an eating mode so they don't feel the detox symptoms, and they got to keep overstimulating themselves with calories. And so it's incredible that we have an entire population that have become overweight. It's only 2.4% of our population that lives healthy enough to maintain a normal weight and that exercises regularly to maintain a normal weight. I'll give you the statistics, okay? 89% of people have a BMI above 23 in America. And you can't have optimal lifespan with a BMI above 23. That's 89%. Okay, so that leaves 11% with a BMI below 23. Now, that 11%, most of them smoke cigarettes or alcoholics or have medical conditions keeping them thin. Most of them who have the favorable BMIs between, let's say, 19 and 22 for a male and 18 and 21 for a female are probably lifespan enhancing BMIs. So in that 11%, most of them people are thin because they're still eating unhealthily like other Americans, but there's some medical condition like asthma or smoking or alcohol that's keeping them thin. But so it's only 2.4% of that 11% or 2.5% that are a BMI below 23 because they eat healthfully and exercise regularly. So we're talking about almost an entire population, 97% of people that do not live healthily.
That doesn't leave very many people, does it?
So most people, so I'm saying most people that are not overweight are still not healthy.
Right. So Eat for Life, is that primarily a weight loss book?
No, it's predominantly a longevity book that instructs people what to do to get rid of their chronic illnesses. What I'm saying, the diet that maximizes human longevity is also most effective at reversing your headaches and getting rid of your asthma and psoriasis and reversing your multiple sclerosis, getting you off the diabetes, getting out of diabetes and high blood pressure. So the diet that maximizes human lifespan is also most therapeutically effective to reverse disease. And when you eat it, the extra body weight falls off you without dieting. So it's, all my work wraps together longevity, weight loss, and disease reversal. And there's lots of other ways you could lose weight that are not healthy.
Right.
But if we want to lose weight and extend human lifespan and get rid of your medical problems simultaneously, this is the way to do it. People are aware that there are, so in other words, you could smoke cigarettes, which will help with weight loss. It's not that health favorable to do that. You could eat a keto diet, which may help some people with some weight loss. But that's very lifespan unfavorable, because the studies, we have about 8 different studies that are long-term studies on different parts of the world and following people who ate keto diets long-term or diets higher in animal products long-term, which created some acidosis to help fat burning. And those people have the highest risk of early life death due to being in chronic acidosis. So we're talking about, it's not the only diet, because there's a million diet books out there, but clearly it's the healthiest way to lose weight. And it's and the weight comes off incredibly fast too.
You have a lot of examples in the book, don't you, of people that actually have taken off a lot of weight.
Yeah, people lose sometimes, a couple 100 pounds if they're that overweight.
Yeah.
But the average person that either does it on their own, reads my books, watches videos, or comes to my retreat in San Diego and stays with me for a few months, if they're really doing the program, the first month they lose between 15 and 20 pounds the first month. That's what I'm thinking the average person is losing the first month. The second month, it slows down a little bit. They're losing between 10 and 15 pounds. And then they're losing about 10 pounds each month thereafter. So that's why I'm saying 1 kilogram a week of weight loss is what we expect to see for a person following the diet, which is 2 pounds a week, if they're overweight, significantly overweight. And I'm saying also something additionally unique, and that is, if they're not losing 2 pounds a week, then we're not seeing the inflammatory markers go down, the insulin resistance go down like we might expect to. We're not seeing the estrogen levels go down. We're not seeing, if they're overweight and they are losing 2 pounds a week, we see all the blood markers of inflammation and disease come back to normal while they're still overweight, as they're moving in the direction towards their ideal weight. And if they're overweight and not losing, or losing a pound or a half a pound, they're probably not going to see that radical reversal of risk that we see when people really follow this program.
How do food addictions work into this?
Well, that's something that I talk a lot about, that a lot of people just ignore or deny, and that the major reason people have so much difficulty losing weight, and the reason diets of all description fail, is because they don't address food addiction and teach people enough about it. Number one, you need a period of abstinence from your triggers to recover from an addiction. You have to be away from cocaine for a while. You have to be away from cigarettes for a while for the addictions to start to remove. So enforced abstinence is very helpful. So to clean out your house and write down what you follow the program. And that's where we're talking about following the program 100%, because when the cheating diets where you're having baby steps to eating healthfully doesn't work for a lot of people, because you keep lighting the fire under the desire. Every time you have the pizza, the bagels, the burgers, the fries, the sweets, the cheesecake, the ice cream, every time you have something unhealthfully, you just want it more, and your desire to have it doesn't go away. You don't really see the benefit. Even the 1 or 2 servings a week curtails the 30 pounds of weight, 5 pounds of weight you would have lost this week. It stops, it just interferes. You just lose the benefits, and it keeps your desire for those foods lit up, number one. Number two, when the body is digesting food, it's not in a heavy repair and detoxification mode. And it's when digestion finishes, when the meal is completely digested, that the liver goes into a detox mode. And if your diet is not healthy, when the body finishes digesting food, you start to go through the addictive withdrawal from your unhealthy diet. When you're eating healthy and your body finishes digesting food, you don't feel anything. But when you're unhealthy, like everybody in America, when they finish digesting food, because the diet is so unhealthy, they start to feel shaky and weak and fatigued and hangry and irritable and stomach cramping or headaches. And they think those uncomfortable symptoms are hunger. And they eat to stop the symptoms, which means they have to keep their digestive tract busy all the time, or they don't feel well. And they don't really understand that those symptoms, directing them and biologically making it impossible to eat less calories, they don't understand those symptoms are not hunger. Those symptoms are a withdrawal from their food addiction, which addiction always has a stimulatory phase And then if you don't keep overstimulating the body, it has a phase of discomfort. And people don't want the discomfort, so they have to keep taking the cocaine or smoking the cigarettes or eating the food. They got to keep eating all day long. They got to keep their digestive tract busy all the time, or they don't feel well. So unless you understand this concept, and unless you lessen these withdrawal symptoms by eating very healthfully, people are going to be biologically induced to overeat calories, and the biological drive to overeat calories is too strong to resist because you feel too lousy if you don't keep eating food. And you'd be amazed at how many overweight people say, I got to keep eating food to keep my energy up. I'm feeling fatigued, so I got to eat, must be hungry. I got to eat. I can't just eat that little portion of food. I don't feel satisfied with that. They get habituated to overeating, and they get habituated to feeling normal for them when they overeat. And if they don't overeat anymore, the normal amount of calories for them, they don't feel well. They feel fatigued, irritated, not satisfied. So by understanding the nature of food addiction, and that they're going to feel a little uncomfortable for the first few days, maybe 3 or 4 days, and then they start to feel better. And if you don't understand that you're going to feel a little uncomfortable, fatigued and wiped out and headachy the first 3 to 4 days, then you're never going to cross that hump into being able to be in connection with instinctual hunger or the desire to, or actually feel you're like okay with fewer calories.
You have an interesting retreat where you live, right? It is where you live, the retreat?
I live right next door. I live in the
right next door
of the retreat, which is which is kind of like my guest property, where people who there are some people who, most people do this on their own. We give them all the tools, and I have a support system on my website where people can communicate with others and communicate with me and take and listen to videos or to listen to events and learn. But some people feel that they just need the extra help and they can't seem to do it on their own. And they're better when they come in to stay with me, and they, we eat meals together, and they come here and stay with a bunch of other people doing it. And they, get exercises and counseling and lectures, and we train them with the emotional and intellectual tools to be able to do this when they go home. So yes, I have a retreat so people can guarantee their success, be in an environment away from their addictive triggers, learn how to make the healthy food taste good, and go home with the tools in place to be able to continue the process at home.
And that's in San Diego, right?
Yes, it's in north of San Diego.
How many people do you normally have there at one time?
Not many, right now we probably, 15 to 20 people.
15 to 20 people. And how long do they normally stay?
Well, the minimum stay is a month.
Okay.
So some people stay a month and some people stay 2 to 3 months. Occasionally we have people staying longer, but a lot of people stay 2 or 3 months because they feel that they really need to do it. Because as you can imagine, to be able to come here and devote that time and the expense, sometimes these people really have significant issues they have to resolve. They may have high blood pressure or diabetes, or they may have, have problems with. So the fact that they came here, it's very important for their life to be here. In many cases,
Do you see a higher rate of success with people who come to your retreat?
I don't know. It depends on success about with what. I think that the people who are here exposed to the retreat and living this way so healthfully for the prolonged period of time decreases the risk of recidivism and wanting to go back on self-destructive eating habits, for sure. But people who, but if the person was connected with me, watching my masterclass on my website and communicating in the forums and and being involved with our coaching sessions we have online, and they're going to put the same 3 months into strict adherence to the program, they could do this on their own. It just takes, it takes a person to take the initiative and be dedicated and be persistent and be, it's just like it's like success in any endeavor in life. If you want to really be good at something, you have to be persistent and dedicated to repeating the right behavior over and over again. And even if it doesn't feel right at the beginning. And just like, may not even like eating a salad, but you have a salad every day. And after a while, you learn the salad dressings. You're chewing it really well, and you putting the strawberries into it and red onion and a delicious, cashew sesame dressing or something. And you eventually start liking it, but you got it, and your taste buds get better. And people say to me, so I know, so I'm not wanting to give the impression that you have to come here to do a Nutritarian diet. There's hundreds of thousands of people do this on their own, And of course, we have, I have hundreds, maybe 500 success story case studies on the website of people sending in their disease reversal stories of people with advanced heart disease that got well, and people with, with mild dementia that recovered, and people who had, ovarian cancer or breast cancer 20 years ago who was metastasized, and now they're still thriving 20, 25 years later, and without fear, so because they're living so healthfully now, they're not worried about reoccurrence anymore. So I mean, we're talking about so many success, people with multiple sclerosis who made recoveries. So many of those people,
You state that nutrition can be more effective than pharmaceuticals. Can you explain that?
It's not even close. It's not even near just imagine a person has diabetes and they're given drugs to lower their blood sugar and lower their cholesterol and lower their blood pressure with diabetes. They're on all these drugs. Well, the Accord study was stopped by the government because they were showed that when people with diabetes went to doctors more and had their finger sticks checked more frequently and took all the drugs to keep their blood sugar under better control, those people with more aggressive care were dying, had so much morbidity and mortality, dying more serious problems than people getting less medical care and less drugs. Now, I'm not recommending that people let their sugars run higher, but certainly we know that the drugs have negative effects that accelerate the progression of diabetes. And when you give people, and by the way, medical care, the drugs not only are dangerous, because look, we're giving a person who's diabetic more insulin to lower their blood sugar, and insulin makes them gain more weight, and they become more diabetic from the insulin, and they require even more drugs. Or we give them drugs like glucosinurias or sulfonylureas that push the failing beta cells in the pancreas to produce more insulin. Well, the beta cells in the pancreas are already stressed out producing more insulin than they need to produce anyway because the body's insulin resistant. So now we push them to produce more insulin because they're so overworked. They poop out faster, and the person's diabetes advances even quicker, and they gain. So, in other words, people are underestimating the negative effects of medications, number one. But number two, psychologically, the medications give the people implicit permission to think they can keep eating the same diet that caused the problem to begin with, which further accelerates their disease. So medical care generally just makes things worse. If we didn't have any drugs to treat people's blood pressure and blood glucose and blood cholesterol, maybe there'd be millions of people eating super healthfully and out there exercising every day, hiking and eating vegetables and fruits and nuts and beans and staying away from greasy food and oils and fried food and fast food and white flours and sugars. And maybe we'd see people, so we'd have a healthy population with low healthcare costs. And now that we have drugs that take care of those things, people are still going to fast food restaurants and thinking they're okay now because they think they're led into this false sense of security to think they're okay because their numbers look okay, right? They're still overweight. They're still eating poorly. Their blood pressure looks okay. So I don't have high blood pressure. I'm on 3 medications, but my blood pressure is normal. They don't recognize that your risk of death is continuing to advance because you didn't take away your blood pressure problem. You just covered it up with a drug. Taking it away would be you normalize your blood pressure, don't need drugs anymore. I tell people you're not really protected against having a heart attack unless you have a normal blood pressure without drugs and a normal blood cholesterol without drugs and normal blood glucose without drugs. Then you've really protected yourself. That's how you protect yourself. You have to earn good health. So medical care can be a contributor to the shortening lifespan of our population. And keeping in mind that with all these advances in medical care and the high tech and the pharmaceutical drugs, we're not living longer. Lifespan gradually has been going down, not up. We're not protected against having heart attacks. This is still number one cause of death for adults. It's still heart attacks and strokes. People aren't having less cancer and living longer. We're still, Americans are still, the lifespan of Americans is still male and female, 76, 78 average maybe. Lifespan of Nutritarians, right? We want people to, it's like 95 to 105. Average lifespan of Blue Zones, maybe, 8 to 10 years longer. Average, so we're talking about, we have a tremendous opportunity to move lifespan up by decades, not by years. Mm-hmm. And that we find that people with longer lives are not suffering more. They don't have more comorbidities. The dietary and lifestyle factors you need to incorporate to live that long makes it so you don't have the loss of brain function and suffering. Because people think, oh, who wants to live that long? I'll be stuck in a nursing home in a bed the rest of my life with my brain not functioning. No, that's what happens to you when you eat a shortened lifespan diet, a diet that shortens lifespan. We eat a diet that lengthens lifespan. You live with your full mental faculties and your physical capacity until your later years. So it's the opposite of what people think. We're talking about prolonging healthy life expectancy here.
Yeah, being comfortable in your body so that your bones are still good and your joints are still good.
Right?
Yeah. What are some of the more exciting disease reversal cases that you've seen?
Well, it's pretty fascinating how the body is such a miraculous ability to reverse disease when you establish such an optimal environment for healing. Like I've had numerous cases, particularly let's take a woman with lupus, and a young woman with lupus who was destroying her kidney called lupus nephritis. So she had a creatinine of 4.2, and she was on the list now on the National Renal Transplant list waiting to get a new kidney from a donor. And as she adopted this program, her lupus went completely away and her kidney function came back to normal with a creatinine of 0.8 from 4.2, which means 4.2 means 90% of your kidney is gone. Never, So I've seen such remarkable cases, people who are, near crippled with psoriatic arthritis for 30 years, have their psoriasis and joint pain go away. We're talking about a guy, let's say, who has ulcerative colitis with 20 bloody bowel movements a day in the hospital, told his colon had to be removed. And I took this guy out of the hospital. They weren't feeding him, of course. They had him on IV steroids and no food. They wanted to remove his colon. We took him out of the hospital and I put him in my house for a while. Where I just, I took him off, weaned him off the steroids and, fed him a zucchini diet for what, and anyway, saved his colon. We're talking about, and got rid of his ulcerative colitis. So we're talking here about tremendous power of nutritional interventions to do what drugs and surgery can't do. And my mission throughout my whole life has been to scream over the rooftops of America that that people at least should know they have an option. Why take drugs for an autoimmune condition, or even asthmatics who have to wake in the middle of the night to take an inhaler and can't take an exercise class, who completely get rid of their asthma. So we're talking here about so many cases that have just been are very touching. One young woman had to miss young girl. I think she missed 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, 3 years out of school with headaches so severe. And she was getting experimental drugs because they couldn't control her headaches that were so bad. She couldn't get out of bed most days. And obviously, after failing medical care and being hospitalized in Boston for experimental drugs, they finally brought her to me. And after a few months, I had her her body cleaned out, and her headaches were forever gone. And she pursued back to finish high school, went to college, and has a life and has a family now today.
And she didn't do anything besides the Nutritarian diet?
That's correct. The Nutritarian diet, but of course there was weaning off medications and with a supplemental, smart supplementation to include some levels of nutrients and fatty acids and things. So yeah, just smart nutrition. Cancer.
Is there something that can be done with the Nutritarian diet and cancer?
Well, I look at it that the conventional diet is what causes cancer. Certainly there's other contributor factors to cancer, like smoke, asbestos, cigarette smoke, other chemicals, there's a lot of causes of cancer. But the excellence of a diet enables the body to deal with some externally derived toxins. And so even with regard to cigarette smoking and lung cancer, we know the Fiji Island studies show that in Fiji, they have lower rates of lung cancer than Hawaiian Islanders in the study, because they have more green vegetable consumption. So the diet still plays a role, even when the cancer is caused by a non-dietary source, number one. Number two, the same diet that prevents cancer has been shown to extend lifespan and prevent recurrence in people who have cancer. So there's not one diet for people to prevent cancer from developing and another diet to extend lifespan when they have cancer. So we see many people with early stage prostate cancer have it reversed through eating so healthfully. Even Dr. Ornish has done a study on that, showing that early stage prostate cancer is reversible. And I've had so many cases that have reversed. And even with more aggressive cancers that have advanced. For example, I have women with metastatic breast cancer, metastatic ovarian cancer. One woman had 4 liters of ovarian cancer fluid in her lung with a collapsed lung. She had to have her lung reinflated and the fluid withdrawn from her lung, and they was given like 6 months to live. She received chemotherapy, but usually chemo works for a while, but then the cancer comes back in 3 to 8 years because obviously some cells escape the chemo, and those cells that escape chemo start to grow again years later, and now they're not as susceptible to chemo the second time. And this person I'm talking about is still alive 27 years later. She never had a recurrence of ovarian cancer because of the healthy adherence to the diet. See, the diet maybe wouldn't have been sufficient to wipe out the initial cancer because the load of cancer cells was too great. But once we had that wiped out, the remaining cells that were scattered through the body in small amounts, the new heightened ability of the immune system was able to recognize, seek out, and cause apoptosis or destruction of those cells that escape chemotherapy, allowing this person never to have recurrence of cancer again. So we're saying here, yeah, I've seen plenty of different types of cases. And I have women with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that received no chemo, where this lymphoma melted away and disappeared when she followed the diet, So yeah, we have lots of cases that, and some more aggressive cancers that are rapidly replicating and life-threatening need chemotherapy, but some slowly growing cancers like prostate or later life breast cancer do better without chemo. So it's very, very individualized, I could say.
Do you feel like the nutritarian diet could help to prevent those cancers from happening?
That's the whole point. That's why we're saying people can live to be, 100 years old because they're not going to get cancer when they eat this healthfully.
They won't get it.
What I'm saying here is I'm also saying something quite radical. I'm saying by the time the lump of cells of breast cancer in your body has coalesced to form a mass that's visible to the human eye, that can be seen on a mammogram, it's probably been there in most cases more than 10 years. So you have cancer in your body for more than 10 years. So it's not early detection, it's late detection. And most of those cells have left their roost already. Mm-hmm. And I'm also saying that most Americans who don't have detectable cancers, most Americans over the age of 70 have some cancer cells in their body. So I'm saying most people have some cancer in their body. And you don't wait till it's diagnosable to start treating it. You change your diet now when there's no cancer that's visible for any tests. Because that's when the body has the best ability to fight, to kill abnormal cells before they coalesce and form a mass or metastasis, or the cancer gets too advanced. The time you detect cancer, it's too advanced. It's hard to treat. We want to really not. So now's the time, whether you have it. So I'm saying all people should be eating this way because even if they have high blood pressure or some other problem, the people in America also develop cancer cells from eating a cancer-promoting diet that they eat. The American diet is 60% of calories from processed foods like pasta, bread, salad oil, mayonnaise, donuts, cookies, crackers, rice cake, breakfast bars, chips, whatever it is they're eating. And then they eat 30% of calories from animal products. And the mixture between processed foods and fried foods and animal products with minimal produce exposure, they less than 5% of their diet, certainly less than the 10% of produce Americans consume. At least half of that is like potatoes and ketchup. So they're mostly, what I'm saying is the most colorful and helpful produce, like greens and beans and nuts and seeds, aren't consumed by most Americans, hardly at all. The vegetable consumption in America is only 2% of the total calories of vegetables, which is actually insane. We're a vegetable-dependent animal. So, of course, we're going to get cancer.
Same percentage as people that aren't overweight, right?
No, look at that. Yeah, the same. That's right. It's 2% of the population. Right. The Americans eat about 2% vegetables, and we have about 2% of people who are normal weight by eating healthfully, eating relatively healthfully, not as healthfully as I'm recommending. It's not even 0.5% that's eating healthfully. I'm recommending a more radical degree of nutritional excellence. Right. And I don't lessen my advice to get more people to like me or more people to buy my products or services or to buy my books. I don't water it down to attract more people. My niche is to give people what's the very best thing to do and explain to them why, and with all the science and logic. And then it's their choice to decide how much they want to follow it or not. Or maybe because if I watered it down, I'd be selling out that person with advanced heart disease who has to reverse his heart, who has to save his life, or the person with psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis who wants to get well and get off the drugs he's having a bad side effect to. And in other words, if you water it down, you don't get these magical effects.
You're
So
going to do it right.
and so many people water it down, the Mediterranean diet or this doctor and that doctor, and they try to have something that sounds good and something helpful mixed with a lot of, just to appeal to people's desire to not eat healthfully, to give them what they want to eat. And it's just, and you don't see the great results.
Yeah. What's the difference between nutritarian diet and other plant-based diets and maybe the blue zones?
Right. That's right. There's subtle differences, right? Because the blue zone diet is certainly much better than the American diet, right? It's a step in the right direction. But the blue zones are areas of the world where they're eating foods that are culturally and indigenous to that area. They're not designing a diet with the best foods in the world, and maybe some would not be grown in that area. You know what I mean? They're not have as much variety as a nutritarian diet. They're eating better than Americans eat, but that's why they live maybe 6 to 8 years longer, not 15 to 20 years longer, right? They're not necessarily having flax seeds and scallion in their salad every day. We don't know if they are or they're not. They might be having some healthy foods, but not all the healthy foods, not this 6 varieties of mushrooms with the mushroom powders, that prevent cancer. So in other words, the blue zones are a step in the right direction.
You said earlier, mostly plant-based. What animal products would you allow to be in the nutritarian diet?
Yes. The mostly, you also asked me what differentiates this between other plant-based diets or other whole food plant-based diets, right?
Right.
Because because you could eat a diet of mostly fruit, like a fruitarian diet, or a macrobiotic diet, a lot of brown rice, a lot of potato, right? You could eat a diet that's relatively whole food and relatively healthier, and that's better than the American diet, but it still could have, let's say, too much salt or oil. And maybe you're on an oil-free diet, but you're having mostly potatoes and rice, and you're not having enough green vegetables, and you're not having berries and mushrooms in your diet enough. So by putting together the inclusionary criteria that I use, to have the diet be more comprehensively complete, and which means having a wide variety of different colorful plant foods, and also using nuts and seeds as a source of fat, and also paying attention to the omega-3 index is an important element in the nutritarian diet, making sure the person has a favorable omega-3 index, meaning that we supplement with B12, zinc, and EPA and DHA, and we titrate the amount of the EPA DHA supplement to get to the level of the omega-3 index above 5, between 5 and 9, let's say, or 6 and 9, to be in that ideal sweet spot to maximize brain size and to prevent shrinkage of the brain with aging, right? And so there's some subtle differences here between other, you could say, nutritional gurus who have different opinions. But my work is very, not only scientifically supported. I've had huge experience in seeing people over the years on healthy vegan diets develop dementia or Parkinson's in later life due to lack of attention to the omega-3 index and B12 and zinc. B12 and zinc and DHA are the 3 substances that resist brain shrinkage and immunosenescence with aging. It's natural to lose muscles with aging, to lose brain size with aging, to lose immune system power with aging, and we're trying to stop that from happening as much as we can. So giving some extra zinc, DHA, and B12 are a really important part there. And and the other question about how much animal products it might be safe or acceptable, and I don't know the answer to that question. I still prefer people at this point in human history go fully plant-based if possible. And I allow some people who have small amounts of animal product as a condiment or an occasion who don't want to give that up. But in the last decade, I've become probably more concerned about the pollution in seafood and the dumping of plastics in the waterways. Where you eat a sardine, the digestive tract is full of plastic, and the average American now has credit card amount of plastic in their body. And the fact that the agricultural runoff into lakes and coastal waterways has created a huge problem of algae overgrowth, leading to an explosion of cyanobacteria that feed on the algae that then poison the shellfish and the bivalves, which are clams, scallops, oysters, and mussels, as the toxins sink down. And we're seeing now in the scientific literature clusters of ALS and Parkinson's dementia syndrome near waterways where people eat fish out of the lakes, or along coastal areas like Chesapeake Bay where people eat more clams or shellfish. And we're seeing clusters of, so I maybe myself might have cheated and had an occasional, fish or seafood once in a while, but now I don't really do that anymore because it seems that it's at this point, it's probably more lifespan protective to go vegan and just supplement with those nutrients like DHA and zinc and B12 that you would gain from eating animal products and more seafood. And so I do recommend if people are using animal products, they minimize it and they still don't eat bivalves and shellfish or predatory fish, which are more toxic. They're probably better off with an egg white or something, or some, wild animal product. I mean, obviously humans probably ate some lizards, snakes, insects, frogs, small animals, in our history, but still doesn't mean that, today it's better to have a wide assortment of plants to get to get our proteins. And if we have to, supplement smartly. And so it's a hard question to answer. We know that the studies now show that as you move from a diet higher in animal products to one lower in animal products, there's no threshold which we don't see increased longevity occur as people reduce the animal product in their diet more and more. It doesn't level off. We see that the vegans who eat nuts and seeds live longer than flexitarians. And the flexitarians who eat some animal products, who eat nuts and seeds, live longer than the vegans who don't eat nuts and seeds. So your diet can be too low in fat when you're excluding nuts and seeds. So there's even studies that showing even some olive oil is better than having no fat. But the olive oil even though it enhances some degree of longevity compared to no fat or other bad or worse fats like animal fats and other more rancid oils, it's still not as lifespan promoting or as weight loss favorable as eating nuts and seeds as their source of fat.
Right. Yeah.
So it might be butter and animal fats is not as good as olive oil, but olive oil is not as good as walnuts and flax seeds and chia seeds, or olives for that matter.
B12 supplementation. What form do you see as the best way of getting that?
Well, I don't think the form matters that much. There's different types of B12, but we need to take some B12. We usually give people about, 75 to 100 micrograms a day of B12. Whether it's cyanocobalamin or methanocobalamine, it doesn't matter to me. It's not, the differences are not big enough to matter. I have my own line of supplements, but it doesn't have to use, my B12 has nothing special in it. Any form of B12 they take is okay.
I know we've used up a lot of time, so I'm going to just try to wrap it up here. Thank you for giving me the extra time. How can people who are listening to this reach you and get more information?
The easiest way is to come to drfuhrman.com. I have introductory materials. If they want to join as a membership, they could watch the video, the masterclass as part of the membership. They could they could see my books and buy some books or cookbooks there. So I think the most, and if they want to learn more about my retreat, they can see the link there. So they can learn more about it. So the best place is just to go to drfuhrman.com.
Okay. And we've got a link for the Beginner's Guide to Nutritarian Diet that's on your website too. So we'll put that below your podcast as well. Sure. Thank you so much for being here with me today and answering all my questions and taking the time.
My pleasure. Good luck to everybody. Best of health to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you liked what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating or review on iTunes.